Hello and welcome to Empyrion Galactic Survival 1.0, this time coming to you in creative mode, and this week I'm actually just going to show off all of my current workshop builds, some old builds, some new builds, some future builds that are possibly in the works. Really just going over everything I've ever built because I've never really done that before. It's just good to self-reflect, I suppose, on some of the good stuff and some of the not so good stuff. So everything on this platform here is the stuff I've currently got on the Steam Workshop. Let's begin with the hover vessels. So down here is a really great one. It's the Nomad. It's just your little level 5 unlock. And it's just, you know what it is. If you've ever watched any of my videos before, it's always how I start my playthroughs, apart from the current one, which I'm currently testing out, the Desert Runner, which is on the other one over here. And I do like it. It's just so cheap and affordable. It's just it's your tier 1 all-in-one. It can do anything. It really can. That's what I love about it. It's got a good bit of storage. It's everything you need until you find a base because of the amount of storage it's got. You can build all the components you need from the safety of the Nomad as well. And it's just great for exploring. You can take on drones with it. Bearing in mind the only thing that's missing are GATs. You don't have any Gatling guns on it, so you do need to be careful. You have to make sure that your drone is behaving itself. Sorry, not your drone, your turret on top is behaving itself. That's its only downside, I would say. It's also a little bit sluggish when it gets a little bit heavy, but generally speaking, it's alright. Over here is my go-to hover miner, the Scuttlebug. I have had many variations of this, and yeah, it's just absolutely great, very reliable, really good, really high storage as well. Actually falls well under the CPU limits, which I do wonder then. It's still only 100%, which is a shame. I thought they did something about that. Sorry, ignore the siren there, just one moment. Alright. Yeah, and it's got quite a good bit of storage. I think it's 10,000? Yeah, 10,016. And it is great. 6 drills, you've got a couple of GATs as well. I could probably add another 2 GATs on it, but all that does is increase the weight of it, because if you fill up that 10,000, that's a lot. I can tell you that is a lot. You've got a detector there. Try to sort of mask it on the other side here with this little block there that doesn't look that much alike, but it'll do. Minigun turret on the back as well. It's just an ideal, very textbook, I suppose, hover miner. Of course, you've got Harvester module too. Then over here is the Game Changer. This is the most subscribed thing I have on the workshop, which is the Mark II Scuttlebug. And with this, mining is a whole different ball game where you just access the drill turret here, you park yourself on top of the deposit and just drill down. That's it. This is a game changer, this is. Kind of like that Scuttlebug, it's got 2 GATs, your minigun turret on top. Basically there was one other person I saw that did this before me. I mean, he was the one that basically came up with it. I've forgotten his name, but if you click on my Scuttlebug video, I do give credit where credit is due. And I think he had 4 GATs but less storage, so I thought, okay, I'll try and do something different. And here you've got a whopping 17,000 volume. That is a lot. You can mine a planet with that. So, well, you know, or one very large deposit, I suppose. Yeah, it's pretty mobile, and I think it looks pretty good as well, generally. I quite like it from the back, sort of here. I do think it looks cool. Plenty of back thrust, actually, so you won't be weighed down too much. You won't be too slow with all this extra thrust. I think that's another thing this thing does have going for it. Moving on now is, well, I guess the subject of probably the most popular video in my Empyrion series ever is taking on the shielded drone base, and that was in this, the Pyramid, which is just a gigantic block of steel with turrets around it. And this thing is so difficult to kill because it's just got layers of steel. It's got lag shot, as you can see here, and even when you get in, it's got all the components are spread out so much that yeah, you can take out an entire corner, entire section of it, and you still won't do anything to the Pyramid. Obviously, if you come in right at the back here, it's probably the most vulnerable part because you have the CPU extenders in the core. But yeah, so you'd probably look out for this if you were trying to take one of these out. Got artillery turret on top, 6 GATs as well. Yeah, it's just, this thing's a beast, an absolute beast, and it falls well under the tier 4 CPU limits. But my god, this thing, so many memories. Then I decided to one-up myself and make the Lawless class. This is basically the same thing, except it's got more turrets, as you can plainly see. As many as it could fit whilst keeping under CPU limitations. And yeah, it's basically that times 3. and it performs actually a little bit better. If you actually look at the statistics here, 21 degrees turn, this pyramid, 19 degrees turn, so I've actually upped the performance value of this. It's got 8 gats. Obviously this breaks the turret limit, but most people don't use that anymore. It's just pretty redundant. Also thought I'd give it a different colour scheme, kind of for the sake of as well. There are like lights underneath each of these as well that give it like a nice glow. But yeah, it's this nice dark to light scheme. I'm not sure if I like it or not, but I thought I'll do something different. But yeah, not many people have subscribed to this actually, so if you kind of like that, then go for the Lawless class because it's just simply better, really. Alright, moving on now to the small vessels. I've currently got 3 of them on the workshop. And we have my very first small vessel build ever, and I still use it to this day, is the Space Hog. This is just a lovely little tier 1 that I used to get to the moon. I remember that adventure, my very first playthrough. It took me hours and hours. I built this in survival as well, and it was great. It's got a little O2 tank at the back. You've got got a decent bit of storage now on it. I've really upped the storage game. Almost 2,000, which is very nice. You've got a good bit of ammo as well. Pretty good, 800, 750 rather. The 4 gat spotlight. Yeah, it does fly very well. It flies actually incredibly well. About 43 tons of lift. Yeah, it's a really, really good little craft for what it is, for the price that you're paying for it, which is not very much. Obviously, wait a minute, where's the... just planted it to the ground. There we go. That's how you should look. Yeah, just to maybe try and land softly in it. And then over here we have the latest thing on the workshop, is the Tadpole. And this is basically a tier 2 cargo SV, which I had really good use in my Alpha 11 playthrough. And yeah, I think aesthetically it's certainly very striking. I thought, you know what, I'm going to go for a bright orange industrial sort of look. It's one of those with a drone hatch entry, or you can also use the drone hatch, the drone while you're in here. Boop. You have to be careful though, you'll burn yourself if you go to the sides here, as you can plainly see. And this thing, it has 32,000 storage. It's got 1 full container controller, which is safely tucked away in the middle. I mean, if they're able to get through to here, you're probably dead anyway. So, yeah. A lot of the outside though is container extension, not all of it. The bits that aren't are carbon composite or thrusters, as you can clearly see. And I believe it's got about 360 tons of lift. Yeah, 360 tons of lift. That's a really good amount. That's a lot. That is a lot. Let me just take my word for it. It's a good amount of storage for a little tier 2 SV. A couple of gats as well, so you can take out any drones that do come your way. Now we've got something here that I want to alter, and it's one of my favourite vessels. That's always one of my go-tos when I just don't know what to build. The Zol Flyer. This is a tier 3 kind of combat semi-exploration SV. I kind of want to lose the exploration tag of it now. I want to make it more of a combat SV, a POI raider, if you will. And by that, I want to put some minigun turrets on it because we can now do that. The problem with it, and the problem I've had before, whilst using, I think using this, no, it's using this, the King Hog, which you'll see over there. But it is a problem is, when you're using SV to attack a base, you often find that you run in and your SV might get attacked whilst you're in there, and it's defenseless. I mean, yes, this thing's got a shield, obviously, if it's a combat SV in any way. Yeah, so I want to put some minigun turrets on it. Let's actually have a quick look at that over here. The sort of size of them. Maybe I can squeeze one on top. The problem is I've currently got half blocks up there. So I'm trying to think of a good way to do it. So I have these coming straight up. I look a bit goofy though, right? Yeah, that's the thing. Because I've built this in... Oh, excuse me, my throat. Because I built this entirely with sort of half blocks going around, there's no real way to sort of put these on. Everything's a half block. Might have to lose the lights at the side, which I don't really want to do. I like the lights at the side. Speaking of which, why are the lights at the side off? Oh yeah, because I deliberately turned them off. Yeah, those flashing orange lights. But yeah, it's currently got 4 gats, 4 rockets. Just your standard armament, really. But yeah, it's got a warp drive. We don't need the warp drive because we never use this thing. That's the thing, that's why I want to get rid of it. So maybe I'll just actually flatten the top and put a minigun turret on there. That's not a bad shout. But it will lose a little bit of its appeal. I don't know. I think I might do that though. I might just flatten the top, put a minigun turret on there, because there's no need for it to have that warp drive. I've never used it, I don't think. What is that? A plasma blaster charge, rather. Oh, God. Anyway, CPU 1100. I mean, the warp drive is like a few thousand, I'm pretty sure. 3000. Okay, excellent. I mean, that puts us well within CPU limits. We already are, by about 6, I think. Look at that. Just barely, just barely. But yeah, the Zol Flyer is an absolute favourite of mine. I've always got a soft spot for this thing, especially as this is one of my quickest builds ever. I built this in maximum 2 hours. It was the day that everything clicked for me when I started building, actually. And I think I built this out for like 9 or 10. Probably 10, actually. And it just yeah, it clicked. I know exactly what I want to build. I just did it. Then we have what is currently my only, no it's not my only capital vessel. I've got one that's kind of in the graveyard, as it were. But yeah, this is the only decent capital vessel that I have on there. This is also my first ever capital vessel I built as well, and it looks like it, I'm not going to lie. But it's got a roll though, it's got a very good roll. Very limited turret, it's basically a tier 2 capital vessel, and it's very upgradable. As you can see, you've got lots of space inside, you could add more thrusters. In there you've got your warp tank as well, by the way. You could have more thrusters coming out here if you wanted. You could add more turrets as well. You could spread these out, put some more turrets on top. Turrets here. Plenty of room for lift thrusters. You could upgrade these to large thrusters if you wanted. I have actually done that. I've got a playthrough where I've got this thing all souped up. And it kicks ass, it does. The only downside is the small hangar, but you've got enough room in here, and the way I did it is I had the Scuttlebug, just the Mark 1 version, and the Zol Flyer in here. And between those, I was able to get by easily. I also had the Tadpole, which I stuck to the side here. So the Tadpole, guys, it even combines well with this. You can just stick it on the side if you park it sideways. But yeah, you have a quick look in here. You've got your, I guess, kind of your engineering deck. This is where you put your CPU extenders around here. Plenty of room to add more fuel tanks if you really want. I tend to put the shield generator there, hence the S. And there's enough room to put it here, and you'll still be able to use this room here. Originally, I had the elevator sticking out here, and then I realized, why don't I just make it in the wall? That's so much better. So much better. Canteen here. Armor locker, ammo storage, cargo containers, one large constructor, one small constructor. I also have what's known as a loot box, or I refer to it as. It's kind of like a tertiary box. This is where stuff that I want to sort out later when I'm looting stuff. I also use that for this here, the loot going into input, so if you get some ores, you can then use the small constructor to process the ores for the large constructor input. And obviously the large constructor goes into the output, which is that one there, I guess. I also like to have a separate container for O2 and fuel. These are just little tips that I highly recommend doing. You've also got a little garden here that you can add a few crops to. It's only one lot of 9, not particularly amazing. And there's nothing special about the bridge. Detector in there. It's just got everything you need, and it's highly upgradable. Very highly upgradable. There you go, falling just shy of 500,000. It's only made out of, is it hardened steel? All over? Really? I could have sworn it was only regular steel. Yeah, it was mostly hardened steel. That's actually better than I thought. I thought it was regular steel. Yeah, so it's not even too soft either. You know, it can take a hit or two, but not much. You want to upgrade it to tier 3 when you can. Yeah, this thing is, yeah, this thing's great. I do love it. So those are the workshop builds, and I would recommend maybe checking them out. Maybe there's one of these that takes your fancy, and I do strongly recommend the Mark II Scuttlebug. It's popular for a reason, because not many things do what it does right now. Alright, moving on to potential builds that are complete, but I have not put on the workshop yet, or in many cases won't put on the workshop. So we're currently testing out the Desert Runner. Here it's still called the Desert Runner. I have changed it on the blueprints. I promise you I have changed it. There we go. I always forget where everything is when yeah, there we go. Good, okay. So here's the Desert Runner. Just your basic little tier 1 starter, which is designed to be upgradable to tier 2, so we can take on maybe some very weak POIs. We'll add a bunch of thrusters on the side here for strafing, because you're going to fill this up with cargo extensions as well. I do think there's a lot of potential in this. I'm just worried about the how well it pulls back like that. you see what I mean? Because it does. You have a big angle there, so drones, if they get over you, you could be in real trouble. You really could be in trouble. It's yeah. So far, after 1 week only, it's looking. It's all right. It's been good. It's done me well. I have to see where it goes in the future. I also quickly knocked this up just after I finished building that. Actually, called the Lifesaver. Pretty obvious. It's just meant to be a really dirt cheap vessel that you spawn in. How much does it cost? Lifesaver. There it is. Well, I don't know my alphabet, do I? Yeah, really cheap. Under 100 carbon, and the rest are around the 50 mark. I could even make it cheaper if I took out a few things like maybe an RCS or something. Even the wireless, is that necessary? Is the cargo box necessary? Yeah, really cheap. It's very cheap. Perhaps I combine... I'll stick the turret out a bit more. I could put one of these there and make it only 3 of those. I could easily make this cheaper, and I might just do that. I feel like it should be as cheap as possible, so... yeah. No idea if it's any good, but it turns like crazy. Over here we have the mobile defense platform, at both Mark 1 and 2. And I've only ever used this in one playthrough when I was trying to mine a very difficult planet without the help of a cargo... a capital vessel. And I was using a cargo SV, and I sort of set up like a mini camp. I didn't want to build a base there because I didn't want to draw any attention to myself, so I just used a mobile defense platform to sort of defend the camp. We never came across anything, but so it never really got to test it out. I've also got a Mark II version of it here with rockets on it. The idea is you can just throw it somewhere and let it, if anything comes its way, it will just annihilate it, is the idea. A couple of gats in case you do take manual control as well. So yeah, just sort of never really had to use them, but they're there in case I need them. I mean, I've never even decorated them properly, as you can see. Made of hardened steel, but is that necessary? Probably. This bit probably is, because it's got some valuable goods in there. But yeah, there you go. Those are some other hover vessels I've built. Moving on to some other small vessels, we've got Duchess, which is very new. I very briefly showed it off, and I love it, but I don't think there's a place for it in modern Empyrion, because you kind of need capital vessels to get around, and everything's so close. Why would you ever need to use you can't use small vessels to warp from star systems to other star systems, so unless you've got a really packed star system, I don't know why you'd need to use it. Plus you'd need to upgrade it to tier 3 anyway, if you were to run a warp drive, and that's pricing. By that point, might as well build something else, which is a shame because it's actually quite awesome if we actually go up and in it. Lots of room to well, not lots of room to upgrade it, but you've got shield there, you'd put your warp generator there, pentaxid probably down here or something in there. It just looks really cool. Room for a constructor if you want it, armor locker. You've got lots of container extensions, expandable container extension. This is all expandable, so the idea is you get rid of these, stripe bit of the floors. I've got instructions and all of that as well, but I don't know if it's got practical use to anyone. I want to put this on the workshop because I love it. I absolutely love it, and I was thinking of putting it up this month just to get it out there. I know it looks a bit weird. It's very bulky on the sides. I don't know if that looks good or not. Probably not, but there's just something about it that appeals to me. Yeah. Nice and simple aesthetically as well. But yeah, there you go. There's the Duchess for you. Now we have an updated version of a very old build that I still need to tweak some more. I actually think I might just scrap it. The Firebird Mark 1 originally, in fact, what did it look like? This was one of my other survival builds back when I had my first ever playthrough. Why is my memory going blank? Firebird, I just forgot what you were called right there. Honestly. Firebird Mark 1 obsolete. So this is the original version. You can tell it looks like a... But these basically do the same thing. Actually, this is less, but it has to be that much bigger to fit in all the things that you need now. Container extensions. But yeah, it's just meant to be a high-performance combat small vessel that is relatively affordable. And I don't know if this is. It's certainly not as well performing as the old one. Really good turn circle, and it's actually got pretty decent strafe as well. So it does strafe quite nicely. That's the idea, but it is a bit chunky. Certainly not something that I think I'd ever put on the workshop, at least not until I sort out the front section. So yeah, I'm not too sure if I am a fan of it, to be honest with you. So I think building a new tier 2 combat SV is high on the list of things I need to build, and I might work on that very, very soon. Moving on now to my current creme de la creme of combat SVs is the King Hog. Yes, this is the not just older brother, the older brother of the Space Hog, and even then I could still make it a lot bigger. Its CPU usage is just so small, it's kind of wasted almost. But yeah, it's got 12 weapons on it, 12 weapon hardpoints as it were. Obviously it's designed to fit within the limits of turrets and weaponry, but that's not really necessary anymore, so I might tweak this a little bit to have more railguns, especially since it's got the CPU usage. Perhaps we just go all railguns on it. It's just an annihilator, perhaps, in that sense. But it's got a few layers of combat steel as well, so it's nice and bulky too, and it is a fairly high-performing craft. One of my favourite videos I ever did was actually with this, but nobody watched it. Only got like a couple of views. Where I tested it out. I think it was called the King Hog Adventure, and it was great fun, where I almost lost my King Hog because I died and then things started shooting it, but it held its, I think they got bored of shooting it and then just left it. But yeah, it performs fairly well. I think maybe I could, sounds crazy, make this even bigger. So maybe I'll do that someday, since it can definitely get bigger. But yeah, pretty chunky, just a very chunky version, and yeah, tier 4 as well, expensive. Over here we have my first ever warp capable SV, and I built this. Did I build this in survival? I think I might have built this in the same survival that I built in fact the same spot that I built the Space Hog actually. Yeah, the Space Caravan. Everything was space, you see. I'm clearly taking the piss and haven't textured that. I mean, I've tweaked it a lot since, made it cheaper in some ways, more expensive in others. And the thing is, I wanted to build Duchess to be an upgradable tier 2 vessel that would need to be tier 3 to be warp capable. This is a tier 2 SV that is warp capable, but it can't really do much else. It's also a little bit over the CPU efficiency, but that's not bad, that's fine. Remember, it still performs fine if you do that. But I've had to get rid of the large thrusters that were here that looked so much cooler than these 4 medium thrusters. It's changed a lot over time. We've lost a lot of storage. Yeah, I've now shown you the entire storage. It's not good. But yeah, the idea is if you need a warp-capable SV that can carry a few bits, has got a couple of GATs on it as well, just sort of can do a couple of things, and it is technically upgradable. You've got a lot of space that you could do a lot with quite easily. Throw some CPU thingies there, throw a shield generator and a pentaxid tank and you're okay. Add an extra GAT clearly in the middle here. More on the side here, you can have yourself 5 GATs or something. Loads really, there's lots you can do. But the thruster placement is all over the place. I mean, I've just tried to sort of retro design it, refit it. It does look pretty awful, I've got to say. I'm not proud of this one. Definitely not proud of this one. But at the time, I made it look all old, and I do like the texturing though, because I wanted to look old and put together, kind of mishapped, and yeah, just sort of, because I knew one day it would be an obsolete design. And here it is. It's, belongs in a graveyard somewhere, but it's cool, it's great, and it's got a place in my heart, I suppose. Weirdly, I quite like the black and yellow aesthetic. Again, it just makes it look old. That's what it is, it's old. But yeah, goodbye, Space Caravan. You were great. Over here I've got something I built in my last creative mini-series, which is my pocket ships, as they were. The Sparrow and the Sparrow Hawk. The Sparrow is just a little SV if you need to, a cheap build that you keep in your pocket in the factory. So you'd use the factory, you build this, and then if you die or whatever and you're in trouble, whatever you were originally using gets blown up. Say we were attacking in let's say the Space Hog, because that happens all the time. We can then spawn in the Sparrow, just jump in it, and then get back to whatever our base or our capital vessel. And then if needs be, you've got a warp-capable version of that here. So say you are out exploring, at least you've got a warp-capable version there as well if you want, which is the Sparrow Hawk. Just a bit of a chunkier, meatier version of it. A little bit more expensive, obviously, because it's got a warp drive in it. But yeah, it's not a bad little... These are just, they are what they are. They're pocket chips. That's it. Then we move on to probably the biggest surprise and most impressive, I think, in the last very short-lived playthrough that I did. the Mobula and the Mobula Mark II, specifically the Mark II. I think this is going to be going on the workshop this month, potentially, unless somebody requests the Desert Runner, that is. Yeah, these are both Tier 1 HVs. No, CVs. Too many acronyms. Anyway, yeah, the Mark I, no warp drive, but it's got tons of cargo storage. 500,000 basically, got the same on the other side there. Detector, just a couple of sentries, lots of lift. For this size, it's all carbon substrate on the side if it's not container extension. 116 tons is very light for a capital vessel. I'll show you the Explorer over here. 2.17 kilotons. This weighs, okay, 5% of what that weighs. That said, this has no warp drive. This version does, and it's still Tier 1, remarkably, barely Tier 1. It has a little bit less storage, I think it's 400,000 in total, but it does only weigh 211 tons itself. And that storage is, that's more than enough. Look, 220,000. You've also got a little bit in here that is actually concealed from the outside. O2 station, armor locker, it is ventilated, and it's meant to have a sort of steampunky sort of a vibe, I suppose. And it's just looks like a big boat, really. And it does float on water. I should point out, the water quite literally comes up to here. It looks really awesome. It's nice. You still have 1, 2, 3 sentry turrets on it. That's it though. Not as many as the Mobula, but this is a Tier 1 warp capable capital vessel with cargo storage. You can just about squeeze the Space Hog in the middle here, which is what I was doing, but you could always just stick things on the side. It's just great for, I guess, shuttling things to and from destinations if you wanted, but I used it quite a bit in that last playthrough. And what you do is, I tend to start off with this, because it's cheaper. So if we go down to the Mobula, there you go. Most expensive thing is neodymium, 390. Then you cannibalize all the major components, put them into the Mark II. Yes, look at that. That's it on water. Awesome, right? Yeah, into the Mark II, and it's, yeah, you've already got half your neodymium. You'll find the rest from whatever you're doing, hopefully. And yeah, it's really, really cheap. And then you've got a warp capable ship, and that's it. You can go anywhere in the galaxy with this thing. And it's Tier 1. So, pretty good. I'm just quite pleased with the very different, unusual aesthetic of it. Just looks like a boat. I say different, it's a boat. That's not different, but yeah, just for me, it's pretty different. Pretty out there. I remember putting together the Mobi, I was like, what am I building? I thought, oh, this looks alright, but I think there's something about this version, the Mark II, that is good. So I'm not sure if I'll upload both, because they kind of come as a nice pair, or if I'll just upload the version 2, because it's more capable, and that is pretty impressive. Okay, moving on to a couple of bases. You may have seen this one before if you're familiar with the channel. The Snow Base, which I used in my Alpha 10 playthrough, and again in my most recent one, Alpha 12. Don't know if I'm going to use it again in the next one. I should probably give it a rest. And this is a Tier 2 base. You have an extra 10,000 CPU space there, so that you can add a furnace on the inside if you wanted. You'd put it here. I've not hollowed out the ground, I realise that. But you've got ammo storage for it, you've got deconstructor storage ready, that's meant to be for the furnace. You've got an input and output of roughly 200,000 each on your... It's only one constructor, so I don't know where you'd have room for another one. That's the only downside, but you can work that out. Kind of expandable. I like the little separate outhouse here for the fuel and the generator. And it's got 4 cannon turrets and 2 flak turrets. Very adequate defences, especially for a Tier 2. And it is solid concrete all around as well. Some of it's armoured concrete as well, like on top here. So yeah, a lot of the essential things are still armoured concrete. Around the side here. Sturdy, very sturdy this thing. Then over here we have got the pillbox, which I used in my Alpha 11 playthrough. This does not need solar panels because they are useless, because this thing I believe is Tier 4. Is it Tier 4? Tier 3, okay, cool, yeah, that's same. Should be more impressive for Tier 4. But it falls well under the specs, but it's very upgradable as well, lots of space inside. So you basically got this network underneath. So this is what it looks like on the top, turret on everything. Down here, you can see there's all sorts of stuff going on here, and every single compartment here has a different function. But I do quite like this here. Look at this, you've got your shield in there, then you can see down. Let's try and fill this up. The pillbox, you going to come on? There you go. Oh no, you can't see it because of the ground, can you? Of course. God mode. Yeah, look, all the way down to the core. There's the core room itself, all the solar capacitors, the lights that come on when you go near them. But yeah, every pillbox here has a function, so medical, which then goes into living quarters. Go around the side, it's O2 and ammo storage. Probably shouldn't keep those together. You've got your farm here, so you'd replace all these blocks with grow plants. That's for you to do yourself. You've got a deconstructor room here. You've got regular constructor room here, room for more constructors on the side. You've got small constructors as well. You've got additional storage down here. So the idea is you would then drill away and just add more storage. Furnace room here, one furnace already in place. There's the inputs for the furnace. Fuel, O2. And background here to living quarters. A little fridge, bed. And again, there's more up here, just in case you didn't quite get the message. Most of the fridge space, this is meant to be the main cafeteria, I suppose. Constructor storage as well, main constructor storage is up here. And over here is the armory as well. The problem I had with it is you've got to find level ground. Sometimes when you spawn in bases, it really just gets messed up. And I ended up losing, I think it was the armory section upon spawning. And then I lost like another section or two. So I kind of lost a few bits here and there. But as long as I didn't lose this section with all the main storage, that would have been, that's the most important bit I feel, of the top sections. As well as this middle section with the shield generator. But yeah, there you go. That's the pillbox. I think it looks kind of interesting. I might redesign this, possibly. Over here I've got something I've never used, but I've always been really fond of, and this would be really good in a certain scenario. I bet there's certain scenarios this would be great in, where you just need a really cheap capital vessel, something that's even cheaper than the Mobula Mark II, but has a little bit of oomph to take out a drone or two. And that is this, the Micro CV. This thing, how much does it even cost? Maybe it isn't cheaper. I could be making that up. Something that's a bit cheaper is a little bit more all-in-one as well. That I should probably mention. Micro CV, sorry. Roughly the same neodymium, but everything else is a bit cheaper, I think. Would appear to be. Yeah, you've got that's it, this is it, this tube, this little metal tube. Some thrusters all around, 2 cannon turrets on top, so you can take out drones with it quite comfortably. Yeah, let's do the whole walkthrough. It's that small, I think we can do an entire walkthrough quite easily. So here you go, there's the bridge. You got some O2 storage, 2 O2 tanks, lucky you. O2 station, your input, your output. Yes, I'm using separate cargo boxes for this. You got a little bit of extra storage there, that's tertiary storage. I might switch that to a bigger container, probably should. Food processor here, because you've also got a fridge around the corner here. There's your ammo controller, that's it. Just that one box for ammo. 1 RCS, because it needed it. A Pentaxid tank for the warp drive hidden at the back. There's your constructor. There's your fuel. That's it. That is now the entire vessel. To see if it actually does perform. Okay, cool, we got fuel. Oh, wow, it does. Oh, yeah, it really does. Well, it does in some ways. It rolls like crazy. It rolls enough to make you sick. Turns okay. It's slow though, it's top speed filled. But then again, I'm in atmosphere, aren't I? So that would explain it. But yeah, I think this is a pretty cool little... It's just a cool little concept build really, isn't it? What's the smallest possible capital vessel I could build? Because I built this before CPU and weights and volumes became a thing. And was like, ugh, and it was way over it to begin with, so I've really just sort of tuned it down a bit. And yeah, it does work, I feel. I feel it just about works. That's the only up... No, that's not the only up thrust. 1 medium thruster, 1 small there. Very limited. So do be careful. There it is. Right, going to be working on something here. It's like a railgun. Built hover vessel. This is meant to be a tier 2. This is just like, as you can see, very early concept stages. I've got it coming in. I think I'm actually going to have it going out, make it a bit chunky around the sides. Very hovercraft-esque. I think that would suit it. Very hovercraft-esque look. It's like this big front section here, which we're going to have a bait generator in as well. Hopefully. Yeah, so I'll have some sort of... because it's not going to have a shield generator, this is going to be... This basically, I want this to be able to take on some pretty tough POIs, potentially. The problem is, we can only build 3 railguns there, 3 gats there. The CPU is... We're going to have about 15,000? No, 12,000. Oh my gosh. I might have to get rid of one of those gats, which is fine. 2 gats is sufficient. But yeah, it's going to be a bit of a glass cannon. In fact, it's absolutely going to be a glass cannon. No doubt about that. So yeah, that's going to be pretty fun to build, I reckon. And test. It's going to be at unlock level 15 though. But the idea is, let's say you don't want to use any of your valuable resources, building yet another expensive thing for one task. Well, here you go. You would spawn this thing in instead. Right, over here we have an abandoned, a really old thing. The Bullfrog. I used this I think in my Alpha 10 playthrough. It was meant to be a cargo SV that never really worked. Oh, I've not upgraded it, I just realised. Of course I've not. This is before CPU. It's very bulky, just has a lot of cargo storage as you can see here. About 12. Yeah. Almost 24,000, a little bit for ammo. Does that have a detector? No, was that before detectors? Maybe. Oh wait, sorry, you've got the biggest one on the front. 25,000 there, so almost 50,000. Very bulky. I do quite like that. Little toes. But yeah, 2 miniguns on it. Are there any gats? I don't think so. I think there were. Hey, what's this about? Oh, and that was deliberate apparently. Yeah. Maybe I'll try and bring this back to life. It is kind of funny, isn't it? But I just don't know when I would use it. I've got the cargo, I've got the tadpole. Why do I use this when I've got the tadpole? Yeah, I don't think there is a place for that anymore. Just like there isn't really a place for the legacy. My gigantic abomination of a capital vessel. Yeah, I'm not really going to give much of a tour on this. It's on the workshop, but it's just so outdated. I mean, yeah, I upgraded it, I've done what I can to it. I do love this hangar though. I think this hangar is just great. So big, I love spacious hangars. Don't like this sort of thing going on here. Definitely need to sort of make it more compartmentalised, I suppose is the word. Hangar control here. You've got these nacelles on the side that you can go into that they themselves, I mean, they have all sorts going on in them. You've got like crew quarters in them. Use the entranceways to them. Fuel, O2, turrets are there. It's all designed to fit within the limitations of turret limits as well, so I think I could revive this as a storage and transportation vessel. It's the only way I could really sell it, I suppose. Got an armory up here, on the upper deck, more quarters. You've got your sort of your forward, no, this is your bridge, sorry. You can say your 10 forward for like next generation as it were, but no, this is just the bridge. Ready room at the side there, captain's quarters the other side. This is your sort of like living area, you know. You've got grow plots in it. I know this isn't much of a tour I'm giving you, med bay, just sort of running around it. And I did like the, yeah, I can't even switch on. 17 million! 17 million! Oh, it's because of the RCS. Yeah, the stack of 8 RCS. 3, 4, 12 million. 9.5 million. For the sake of, let's see if we can. 1, 2, 3, just anywhere, 4. Probably put them in here behind the glass. There we go. Generators are on, lights are on. Yes. A warp core. Shields are over there. It's got so many functions as well. I've got to admit, I'm quite pleased with. Back when I used to use this for everything, but now I just use the control panel. Sorry, I'd use yeah, levers for everything. Landing lights are on. Let's see if it can take off. It's within CPU limits, so should be able to. It's a cargo vessel. Yeah, that takes off very easily. That's its cargo capacity. 256 kilotons. The weight of this thing itself is 37.6 kilotons. That is impressive. So this could be rebranded, I suppose, as a cargo vessel. Obviously I've never really used that myself, I don't think. No. But yeah, it's got limited weaponry, which is fine. It's just so big and bulky and ugly as well. I'm working on, I've actually finished building a second version of it that you can see in other creative videos I've done in the past. And it's just much more pleasing to the eye. Not to mention the colour as well. Yeah. Anyway, I believe I've got one more thing to show you in orbit, so let's go check that out. Alright, here we go. Ah, no. 3 more things. Space bases. My very first one, which looks like an absolute disaster. Space Station Alpha. Yes, this really was Alpha, wasn't it? Oh my gosh, look at these bits here with... Dreadful, that is dreadful. This is the first time I had this idea of a hangar where you had these little ledges, perches, just sort of there. You could, I remember putting a Firebird on here when I used this in my first survival run. And in here I think I could keep a very small very small capital vessel. I think I had one, do you remember the micro ZV I just showed you? I had a mining version of that basically, that were just there to mine asteroids. This is back before we had container controllers, so I had to label everything up as I went. Yeah, you've got a constructor area, everything's just open here. It's just one big open thing, and most of the time you don't even use the jetpack. I kind of like this in a way. I mean, it's not too bad, but you can see I just know how to use curved blocks in the slightest bit. Look at this. It's just, what is this? Yeah, not good. Hangar control, I guess. Pretty cool. Canteen, greenhouse, if you can call it that, med bay. And all of this has no function at the top here. But this could easily fit the Explorer capital vessel. It can't fit the Legacy. I don't know why I don't want to bring it here anyway. But then I thought I need to build something newer, just much better. And already, just aesthetically, that is a lot better. I mean, this is a fairly recent build. I wouldn't ever use this. I just wanted to kind of build it as like a big, right, this is my big end game thing I'm building, and it was this base, basically. It is a tier 4, very heavily armoured base with, for some reason, solar panels which cannot sustain it, so I don't know why I put them in there. But yeah, this can fit the Explorer capital vessel there. You've got O2 stations there, clone chamber if you want it. Yeah, storage all around on every deck, or on that deck, sorry. Med bay, food stuffs up here is, oh, the core room. Hang on, I like the core room. I'm mildly proud of this. I just like how the lights all come on as you gradually make your way up. You'd have no reason to go in here, but it's just cool. All of this. There's the core. Yeah. Fuel in here. I guess you'd come in here to check see if it was damaged or not. Deconstructor storage there. Shield generator here. I mean, this is all a bit... It's just a bit barren, really. This is bad. I should have filled it up with meaningless blocks. But then you've got the top here. Top floor, which is just living quarters. Really. Beds. More beds. What's that blue light? Oh, it's because yeah, it's there. Fair enough. Leakage. And then you've got living space here. Place to hang out. Look at the stars. Yeah. There you go. And I'm currently, last thing I'll show you, is something, well, the last creative video I did. Echo Point Station, which I've not done anything else to since, because I don't need to right now. I'm not going to use it till towards the end of my playthrough, I imagine. And I want to set up a little checkpoint. I think I'm not going to go through that again. I've done a video on that, so no need to. Anyway, I don't know why I did this necessarily. Just thought I'd see if there's anything that you want me to carry on building. Should I carry on that hover vessel railgun thing? That kind of is what I want to work on. I do want to work on maybe a tier 2 combat vessel, but I don't really have any fresh ideas in my head right now. Nothing that I'm like, I'll make it look like this, or, you know, you get like an idea in your head. Or, more importantly, if there's anything you want on the workshop, please let me know that's not on there, because I would happily upload it. I tend to upload one thing a month, and yeah, just sort of pace it like that. But if it's the Mobula Mark II, I'll probably put both of them up there, just because they kind of work nicely as a pair. But anyway, I have been rambling on for ages. I need some water, so I'm going to leave it there. I'll probably do one of these every 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, we'll see. But obviously you'll still be getting regular Empyrion every week in survival mode. So thanks for watching, I'll see you next time.